I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. I know that Donald Trump will probably come after me again, and my attitude's going to be the same. I'm innocent, I am not afraid, and I believe in an independent federal judiciary. My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either.
A federal judge dismissed separate criminal charges against former FBI Director James B. Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James on November 24th, ruling that the Trump-appointed prosecutor who filed the cases had been unlawfully installed in her position. Comey pleaded not guilty to both charges, which arose from alleged false statements he gave to the Senate Judiciary Committee in a September 2020 hearing. He was indicted shortly before the statute of limitations on the alleged offenses expired. However, after the ruling, AG Bondi defended the credentials of Trump's former attorney, Lindsay Halligan, and said that she will take all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, following the judge's dismissal of the Comey case. Now, along with Pam Bondi, FBI Chief Kash Patel said that action is coming within a few days, and urged people to stay tuned for right after Thanksgiving. On a podcast-themed show named American Thought Leaders, Kash Patel disclosed that the Trump administration is not done yet and will continue its efforts against former FBI Director James Comey.
Well, because it's pending in terms of appellate status and what we are going to do for the next steps, the judicial process can make whatever determination it wants. But we, the FBI, and our partners at the DOJ have numerous options to proceed, and we're executing on all those options. So we're not done. I would say stay tuned for right after Thanksgiving, and you'll see multiple responses in my opinion.
Judge Cameron Curry stated that Lindsay Halligan, selected by Trump to pursue charges against two of his political opponents, was never legally qualified to hold the position. Both Comey and James have asserted their innocence and characterized the prosecutions as politically motivated. After the judge tossed the indictment against ex-FBI boss James Comey, he fired back at Trump in a video post stating, "I am not afraid of you."
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price. And I know they will serve again. I was very lucky that some of the best lawyers in America stepped forward to represent me. I hope they serve as an example to more and more lawyers, especially at some of the big firms, to participate in protecting our liberty, protecting the rule of law. And my family and friends were always with me, and luckily for me, include some of those great lawyers. This case mattered to me personally, obviously, but it matters most because a message has to be sent that the President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. I don't care what your politics are, you have to see that as fundamentally un-American and a threat to the rule of law that keeps all of us free. I know that Donald Trump will probably come after me again, and my attitude's going to be the same. I'm innocent, I am not afraid, and I believe in an independent federal judiciary, the gift from our founders that protects us from a would-be tyrant. When I was a kid, my parents would wake us up for school every morning by snapping open the shades and saying, "Time to rise and shine and show the world what you're made of." Well, it's that time, America. It's time to stand up and show the fools who would frighten us, who would divide us, that we're made of stronger stuff, that we believe in the rule of law, that we believe in the importance of doing things by the law. So stand tall, shine, and keep the faith. My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
Let's replay the hearing where it all began.
Mr. Comey, you testified earlier today that you have concerns whenever the FBI doesn't operate in a, quote, competent and honest way. In your judgment, was the way that the FBI handled the Russia investigation, the surveillance of the Trump campaign, the Carter Page FISA application, the Michael Flynn investigation, was that handled in a competent and honest way?
First, Senator Cruz, there was no, to my knowledge, surveillance of the Trump campaign. I think the overall investigation of the Russian interference and whether Americans were associated with it was conducted in an honest, competent, independent way.
Okay. So, Mr. Comey, you're saying it's competent and honest. I assume you've read the Horowitz Inspector General report, which found 17 significant errors or omissions in the Carter Page FISA application. So, in your view, 17 mistakes lying to the court is competent and honest?
Well, I've read the report. I don't believe he concluded there were lies to the court, but there are significant and important failings in the way in which the Carter Page FISA was prepared and renewed.
All right, Mr. Comey, let's go directly to lies. The Inspector General report concluded that Mr. Klein Smith, an attorney who worked for you in the FBI, deliberately altered an email. He had emailed the CIA to ask if Carter Page was a source. The CIA came back and said, yes, he was a source. And Mr. Klein Smith, your lawyer, altered that email to add the words, not a source, to make the email say precisely the opposite of what the CIA said, and that fraudulent document was then used as a basis for a fraudulent submission to the FISA court. You believe that is honest and competent, Mr. Comey?
I don't believe you've offered an accurate summary of the Horowitz's findings.
Mr. Comey, I have the report right in front of me. Page 254 describes how the lawyer, specifically the words, and not a source, had been inserted in the response, directly reversing what the CIA says. Was it practice in your FBI to fraudulently alter evidence that you submit to federal courts?
It was not the practice in the FBI to fraudulently alter anything that's presented to federal courts.
Well, it is difficult to say that an investigation that featured fraudulent evidence is competent and honest. But let's move on to something else. The predicate of much of this investigation was the Steele dossier, which has now been totally discredited as garbage. When did you learn that the Steele dossier was being funded by the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary Clinton campaign?
Again, I believe your predicate is inaccurate, but I first learned of the Steele dossier in late September of 2016 and understood that it was funded by political opposition to President Trump or candidate Trump. I didn't know the specifics of which part of the opposition, but I knew that it was political opposition research funded.
When? When did you learn that?
I think about the time I was briefed on it, so about the same time, probably third week of September.
So you were personally aware that the political opposition, whether the DNC or Hillary Clinton or whatever campaign bucket it was coming from, it was the opposing party that was funding it. You were specifically aware of it in September. Why didn't you tell the FISA court? Why did you omit that over and over and over again on applications you submitted? Didn't the court deserve to know that?
My recollection is the FISA court was alerted to the possibility that it was a politically biased reporting.
Your recollection is false. The FISA court was not told that it was funded by the DNC. That's one of the omissions that your FBI did repeatedly to the federal court. All right. Go ahead.
That's not what I just said. So,
what did you just say?
I said my recollection is the court was alerted that there was potential political bias in this reporting.
political bias is different from saying it was funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign. You just testified to this committee. You were specifically aware of that, and yet you repeatedly did not inform the court of it when you were getting an order to essentially weaponize the Democratic opposition research. All right, next question. When did you learn that the primary subsource, so the basis for this garbage Steele dossier, was a suspected Russian asset?
I don't remember ever being informed of any prior investigation of any of Steele's sources, including the primary subsource.
So you're not aware of it today?
I'm aware of it today because I've read it in the public sphere, and I've read a summary memo that the Department of Justice sent to the Judiciary Committee.
I would note the primary subsource was subject to FBI investigation, a counterintelligence investigation from 2009 to 2011, and I will read some of what the investigation was. The primary subsource approached two individuals who were about to enter the Obama administration and indicated that if, quote, the two individuals at the table did get a job in the government and had access to classified information and wanted to make a little extra money, the primary subsource knew some people to whom they could speak. Is trying to recruit spies against the U.S. government. You have a Russian agent that is the basis for an FBI investigation, and the FBI is the one who had investigated them. Your testimony is you didn't know. Did it occur to you to ask? Did you ask any questions or do any due diligence on this at all?
I don't remember anything about the facts that have been revealed recently about the subsource. And as I said earlier, I think that cuts both ways, but I don't know how the people running the investigation thought about it.
Well, you didn't tell the FISA court that either, and I suspect the FISA court would have had a very different assessment if you had told them that the basis for your application was what you were being told from a suspected Russian asset. All right, let's shift to another topic. On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
All right, I'm going to make a final point because my time has expired. This investigation of the president was corrupt. The FBI and the Department of Justice were politicized and weaponized. And in my opinion, there are only two possibilities: that you were deliberately corrupt or woefully incompetent. And I don't believe you were incompetent. This has done severe damage to the professionals and the honorable men and women at the FBI because law enforcement should not be used as a political weapon. And that is the legacy you've left.